episode of the Darrin Horn Show. It is presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare. They know you have questions, and at St. Elizabeth, they personalize care with the answers you need. I'm Rick Broering alongside Darrin Horn, head coach of the NKU Norse. And coach, for this episode, we are joined by the most requested guest since we started the show. Every time I go out in public and people ask me about the show, I always get, hey, when are you going to have Coach Ken Shields on? And so today we're doing that.
Well, most requested for a reason, right? We're all here because of what this guy built. And, you and I talked when we first started talking about plans for the show. The one person we knew we had to have on was Coach Shields. So, Coach, honor for you to be here with us today.
It's an honor for me to be here, I promise you.
306 wins, the all-time winningest head coach in NKU history. And, Coach, I wanted to go back to
men's basketball.
For men's basketball, correct. Yeah, thank you for the correction there. I want to go back to the beginning, before that 88-89 season, when they made the offer to you to become the head coach here. You had a pretty good thing going for you at Highlands High School, and we've even talked the money situation wasn't necessarily enticing to bring you over here. How did that conversation go? How did they win you over to bring you to NKU?
I had won 460 games as a head coach at St. Thomas and Highlands. St. Thomas is no longer there. And very happy, won 5 regional championships. Everything was great. And this job opened up, and my predecessor here, Mike Beitzel, called me and said, why don't you apply for the job? I'm resigning. I read somewhere where the job only paid $28,000. Well, I was making $32,000 at Highlands. So I was working with the playground system in Fort Thomas then. I called Jane Meyer in the morning. I said, Jane, look, I don't want to be special, but I would take a cut to come there. She said, just hear me out. And so I said, okay. So we got down to, we were in the Final Four, and they got down to the end, and they said, Jane called me on a Friday night and said, you got the job. And I said, well, I'll take the job since you don't. And so we settled, and I came out here, and that first year I had material, good players, seniors. Derek Fields was he was maybe one of the best players ever to play here. And we won 18 games and played in the Chico State tournament, which I inherited, and we had a great time. They only had 4 teams in those days in Division II that went to the regional. Okay, now it was 8. But anyway, so I ended up here, and 16 years. I really loved it, enjoyed it. We had some, after my first year, and we started recruiting freshmen. We got 3 of the best freshmen in Greater Cincinnati and one of the best from up in Columbus, but they were freshmen. Well, so we took our lumps. And the next year, we took a few more lumps. And, then things got a little hot around here,
Well, you told me about an inflection point around after that 92-93 season where there was a tough conversation at that point where you were kind of given an ultimatum, right? What was that situation like for you, and how did you move forward?
Well, I was told I needed to win X number of games. I had to be in the upper 50% of the conference and other things, 15-point plan. And anyway, I said I was asked not to share it with anybody. I said, well, I'm going to share it with my wife and my assistants, And so we did, and we battled. That was the year, by the grace of God, Paul Cluxton, LaRon Moore, Shannon Miner, Andre McClendon came upon us, and we really showed a lot of progress. Then the next year, Andy Listerman comes in. Everybody said to me, Andy Listerman can't play at your level. Well, Andy Listerman was the catalyst. We won 28 games, and I was the coach of the year in the whole United States for Division II basketball. So, I loved it here and had many great years. Never had a losing season after way early, and ended up with 306 wins.
Those back-to-back championship game appearances were defining moments for NKU basketball. What really stands out to you about those teams that you put together?
Well, again, you're looking at Cluxton, Moore, Andre, Reggie Talbert, Shannon, Andy Listerman, Kevin Listerman came upon the scene. Anyway, they were a great bunch, and they really played together, and they were good listeners and followed directions well. And I had a great staff. I had Pat Ryan, who was with me all 16 years. I coached him in high school and helped him get a couple jobs along the way. And I had Dave Beasold, who eventually was my successor. And Dave did a great job, and I had some other part-time people. But anyway, like I say, things went along, and everything was fine. And like I said, 94-5, I'm coach of the year. It's 9-5-6, where we had played Southern Indiana with Bruce Pearl, and he was a hell of a coach and still is. And anyway, we went down there in early January. They beat us. They were number 1 in the nation. They beat us by 32 points. Oh, so anyway, that's when I decided to put the Listerman boys in the starting lineup. And I said to Shannon, I know you're the top point guard. Andre, you're the top post guy. But we need to be better off the bench. And they both said, whatever it takes, coach. And from that point on, we went down and played Southern Indiana, hosted Southern Indiana in the finals of the 4 teams. And as it turned out, we beat them by 12. We beat them by 12. Bruce had the player of the year on his team. And that was an unbelievable situation. That's when, was that the time they shaved my head when I had hair? And anyway, so we won that one, and we lost by 7 points to an undefeated team from Kansas in the finals on national television. And then the next year, we had some ups and downs. But up at the University of Indianapolis, who was number 1 in our league that year, we played Oakland University the last game when Greg Campy coached in Division II, and they were good. And we beat them in that game up there to go to the finals. So we go to the finals, and we win the first game there, team from Florida. Second game, and now we're going up against Cal State Bakersfield. I forget the coach's name, but he was a nice fella. Anyway, so we played that game, and we got beat by 1 point. And we had the last shot, and people thought that Andy Listerman was fouled, but regardless, they didn't call.
Was he fouled?
I was right. That's
a yes.
I call it callable. But as you know, at that time, they don't call it that way.
That's right.
But it was an unbelievable finish. And we graduated a bunch of those seniors, and we came back with the likes of Craig Sanders, who became our leading scorer for years here, and Brian Lahan, and all those guys, and whatever. We had good teams, and then in about 2002, we had a really good team, and we were rated real high, and we got beat up in Michigan by Michigan Tech, I think it was.
Coach, can you hold that thought? We got to take a quick break, and we come back, we're going to tell a few more stories, all right?
All righty.
All right, you're watching the Darrin Horn Show, presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare.
Do you have an experienced ACL doc you can recommend?
I'm right here.
Can you tailor treatment to me?
I'm right here.
Is it possible to get medical advice in the middle of the night?
I'm right here.
At St. Elizabeth, we provide a faithful commitment to the community, innovative treatments, and unsurpassed advancements in care. We understand you have questions, and at St. Elizabeth, we personalize care with answers you need.
We live with you, build with you, grow up with you. and dream with you. At Central Bank, we belong to the same communities you do. You're our neighbors, friends, and business partners. And through the relationships we build with you every day, we consistently serve you better. That's what highly personal banking is all about. We start with you.
It starts with the slice to make fresh cut fries, the squeeze to make fresh lemonade, and the sizzle of the sub. Oh yeah, pin-station.com.
Join Kentucky Wild and make a difference for our threatened wildlife. Your membership supports opportunities to experience wildlife conservation projects side by side with the Kentucky Wild team and receive some sweet gear too. Join today. Annual memberships start at $25.
Welcome back to the Darrin Horn Show. Is presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare. We're talking to legendary NKU coach Ken Shields, and before we went to break there, we were talking a little bit about those back-to-back championship run seasons. Coach, you've been in that situation where you've won a championship, a Horizon League championship. What is that process like when you come back with that same group of players the next year?
Well, let me say this. There's a big difference between winning a conference championship and playing for a national championship like this guy did twice. But, obviously it's a challenge, and some of it depends on who's returning or not. But, Coach and I were talking at the break. What are the challenges that come with, Coach? You've got a great team. They play for a championship. You got a lot of those guys back. What are the challenges that come with trying to get them back to that point again, which you did?
Well, the challenges, of course, are there, but the players were hungry. They felt that they had not completed something, and they were totally involved. And that year or the year before, I said, if we get to that final game, you can have an earring implanted in my left ear. And we, of course, got there. But then again,
I don't see an earring hole.
Yeah. It took it out, but it was there. And I said, I'll wear it the rest of my life. But I did take it out eventually. And then I also said, now listen, if we win this championship, we're going to have a tattoo right on my arm here, much to the chagrin of my wife. And it would be a 3-leaf clover with LM for the mom, PC, and then SM for Chin. I said, that'll be rare for the rest of my life. And my wife wasn't happy about the thought process. But anyway, I would have been there too. I could have pulled my up. But anyway, they were a hungry group, and they played together, and they liked each other. And, Paul Cluxton and LaRon Moore, they were roommates from the time they started until the time they both graduated and finished.
Coach, 8 years after you retired, NKU made the decision to transition into Division I. What were your thoughts at that time? Did you think that was a good idea, and how did you see that playing out for the university?
Well, I knew with the little facility at Regents Hall, that was unimaginable. But when they were back in the early 90s, there was a push to build an arena then, and it never materialized. So when it got up to the time where it's getting close to this building being built, Dr. Vitruba asked me if I would stay on and coach in the new arena. But by that time, I was 64, and my knees had to be replaced, my hip had to replace, and all kind of things like that. And so, I didn't stand. Sometimes I wish I would have, because I wasn't. But anyway, when the arena was going to be for sure, I knew they'd be Division I. And of course, Pat Ryan and Dave Beasel were with me. Bees for 15 years, Pat for 16 years, both on a part. We never had a full-time coach, Darrin. When I started here, I had a half-time. That was Pat and Ryan then. And then the next year, Bees walked in my office and said, Coach, I knew his daddy, would you help me get to coach a little bit? I said, well, I'll have to fundraise the money, but I can get you $2,000 if you want to do it. And he did it, and he did a great job. he was my defensive expert, and he really did a great job and was very loyal. And anyway, but he took over as head coach upon my recommendation, and anyway, he lasted a few years. But as usual with a new athletic director, they oftentimes want someone else in. And of course, then I think John Brannon came in, and I had approached John Brannon in the senior year. I had a nice home visit with him and his wonderful family, and thought we might get him. And he signed with Moorhead first. And we played Moorhead that year and lost by 1 point. And then he transferred to Marshall. And John was a very good player, and he was a very good coach too, no doubt about it.
Coach, you watched NKU clinch its first trip to the NCAA tournament with some fans at a local establishment. I know because I was one of them, and I remember that being a pretty emotional night. What was going through your mind and your heart when you watched NKU make its trip clinch its trip to its first NCAA Division I tournament?
I was excited, and we were probably having a couple quiet beers at that time.
Might have.
Now that my heart condition is where it is, I'm not allowed to have any beers. I lost vision in my left eye due to a heart problem, and I can't drive a car anymore. But anyway, I was ecstatic, and when they played, I think in Indianapolis or somewhere, when that bus came back, I was there waiting for that bus when it came back. And anyway, it was thrilling to see it. It's thrilling to see the successes that we've had with Darrin and the program in general. And I just feel like when I was hired at the press conference, the last thing I said was, always remember, I'm a spoke in the wheel. I'm a spoke in the wheel. Right. But anyway, I've just been tremendously proud. We've got the 5 children between 50 and 58, and 3 of them graduated from here. A 4th one has a master's in rank 1 from here, and we have the utmost respect. I've got a junior here, Abe Hills, that is he played on the state championship team in Highlands with Sam. And his one grandpa was Moat Hills, and I'm the other grandpa. Oh, wow. And he's a great kid. And if ever you get to a point in a couple of years, this is one you want to pull in. He is the most fabulous young man you can imagine. And he's out here. He's going to graduate next Christmas time. And he advanced classes and that. But anyway, your staff is so important, and loyalty. I learned long time ago that when you're selecting a staff, you got to make it poignantly clear that loyalty. I have to count on your loyalty, and so I was fortunate. I had good players. I had a good coaching staff in high school at Highlands with Bill Petty and John Messmer and Mike Listerman. I had great guys with me, guys that I'm still very close with today, except Bill Petty has passed away. But anyway, I've been blessed. I wasn't the most intelligent guy coming out of high school, and I wanted to be a coach, and I thought that in order to be a coach, you had to be a PE and health teacher, because everybody at Cubcat that coach was that. And at that time, Northern was not in existence. So Thomas Moore, Bill Madonna, they didn't have it. So our principal, Brother Julius May, he was a Marianist that emanated out of University of Dayton. And so he asked me, he says, why don't you think about that? Well, again, my dad was a milkman by day and a bartender 2 nights a week. My mother was a waitress in those days. We lived in a little 4-room cottage right down there where the big Radisson Hotel is. And anyway, so he talked me into taking a test, and here's what it's going to be. $17 a credit hour. Can you imagine $17 for a private school?
Hard to believe.
And then living right in the ghetto, the real ghetto in those times when it was before it was all renovated, 1 block from the university. And my rent with 6 guys, $33 a month. Can you imagine that? $33 a month.
That's great.
And it never got over $31. And so I graduated from there, and I love Dayton. And I've got a granddaughter, Lainey Smith, who's a freshman, and she is on the varsity soccer team. She was the player of the year in the entire Atlantic League. Okay.
Coach, that's great stuff. I appreciate these stories. We could talk all day. We got to take it to break here and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining. This was really fun for us.
It's been my honor to be here anyway.
And Coach, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. We're able to have success today because of what you built, and we don't take that for granted.
Thank you. I'm a spoke in the wheel.
All right, you're watching the Darrin Horn Show, presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare.
Do you have an experienced ACL doc you can recommend?
I'm right here.
Can you tailor treatment to me?
I'm right here. Is it possible to get medical advice in the middle of the night?
I'm right here.
At St. Elizabeth, we provide a faithful commitment to the community, innovative treatments, and unsurpassed advancements in care. We understand you have questions, and at St. Elizabeth, we personalize care with answers you need.
At Barleycorns, we create an atmosphere you'll love for the experiences you'll remember. From special celebrations and laughter with family, to electrifying games and victory laps with friends, we help add that extra sizzle to your new favorite moments. So get over here and enjoy the best scene in town. Barleycorns, your neighborhood sports bar and grill. What are you waiting for? Get over here.
It starts with the slice to make fresh cut fries, the squeeze to make fresh lemonade, and the sizzle of the sub. Oh yeah, pin-station.com.
Join Kentucky Wild and make a difference for our threatened wildlife. Your membership supports opportunities to experience wildlife conservation projects side by side with the Kentucky Wild team and receive some sweet gear too. Join today. Annual memberships start at $25.
Welcome back to the Darrin Horn Show. It's time for the film breakdown segment. It's presented by Central Bank. Central Bank, we start with you. All right, Coach Horn, a couple recent games. You guys had some big milestones hit by a couple of your veteran players.
Yeah, I mean, to score 1,000 points is a really big deal. Kind of a separator for your college career, I think. And to have 2 guys do it in a week, Sam Vincent and Trey Robinson, was really good to see.
Yeah, let's take a look at that clip now with both Sam getting his 1,000th point against Akron here on a 3-pointer.
Well, and keep in mind, Sam missed most of his junior year, right? So really, essentially, he's doing this in 3 years of basketball, which is impressive.
Then here, this is started by a great defensive play by Kean Atijere that led to Trey Robinson's 1,000th.
It really is. And good to see Trey scoring off defense and being aggressive in transition, really grown as a player and a person, and is really playing at a high level right now.
The offseason, you knew this potential was in there in terms of his ability to give you more. It was just about being more consistent, and he's starting to do that.
No, he really is. And for him, it really begins on the defensive end. When he's at a high level defensively, everything else seems to follow. And really good right now is that he's grabbing the ball at a high level, really getting on the glass.
All right, you've been watching another edition of the Darrin Horn Show, presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare.
We live with you, build with you, grow up with you, and dream with you. At Central Bank, we belong to the same communities you do. You're our neighbors, friends, and business partners. And through the relationships we build with you every day, we consistently serve you better. That's what highly personal banking is all about. We start with you.
One more stop, boys.
Dasher and Dancer, Prancer, Santa.
At Meijer, we're always working harder to help make the holidays a good deal better.
How thoughtful. But where's the milk?